Kurtop here, and these are 100 pieces of evidence that made scientists start talking about UFOs. Metal objects from Guayas. The Maná caves in Ecuador have attracted the attention of not only archaeologists, but also fans of mysticism and ufology for many years. The story about the discovery of metal objects in these caves is shrouded in mystery and mysticism. According to legends, metal plates were discovered in Maná, engraved with symbols that resemble modern diagrams, maps, and even technical drawings. These discoveries became the basis for hypotheses about the existence of an unknown civilization in the distant past, which possessed highly advanced technologies, or about contacts between ancient people and extraterrestrial beings. Supporters of these theories claim that such complex and detailed symbols could not have been created with primitive tools and must be evidence of more advanced knowledge. Some researchers even suggest that the plates could have served as star maps or technological instructions left by extraterrestrials. Most scientists remain skeptical of these findings. There is no convincing evidence that the metal objects from Maná actually date back to ancient times. Some experts point to possible traces of modern metalworking and the inconsistency of these artifacts with the styles and technologies known in ancient Ecuador. Moreover, there is no reliable dating or context for the discovery of these items, which further undermines their authenticity. Archaeologists believe that these artifacts may have been created in a later period, possibly as part of a hoax or to attract tourists. Thus, despite the fascinating and mysterious stories about the metal objects from the Maná caves, their origin and significance remain in question. The story of the Maná caves is an example of how myths and legends can intertwine with reality, creating fascinating but often unreliable accounts of our past. The Roswell disk is a mysterious artifact that is rumored to have been found near Roswell, New Mexico, after the famous UFO incident in 1947. According to some reports, the disk is part of the wreckage of an unidentified flying object. The disk was a round metal plate about 3 meters in diameter, with unusual symbols and markings on its surface that could not be attributed to any known earthly language. The material from which the disk was made turned out to be unidentified and had strange properties. Some sources claimed that the disk was handed over to the military and studied in secret laboratories. Those who had the opportunity to see it spoke about its potential connection to extraterrestrial technology and information storage capabilities that surpassed all earthly counterparts. Over time, the Roswell disk became a symbol of conspiracy theories and mysteries associated with UFOs. Its existence is still disputed and remains a subject of debate among scientists and paranormal researchers. The disk has become a legend among UFO enthusiasts, and many believe that it is kept in secret government archives, along with other artifacts pointing to extraterrestrial interference in human affairs. The government is secretly contacting aliens. Recently, there have been reports about UFOs, including from Mexico, where alleged alien remains were supposedly found. It turned out these were just dummies, but rumors about UFOs continue to spread online. Some people believe the planet is controlled by mysterious forces, while others see it as a distraction from real problems. Interest in UFOs was also fueled by former U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who claimed that the American government is connected with a non-human intelligence. According to him, this is kept secret in order to hide top-secret technologies that could provide an advantage in a military conflict. He calls for the disclosure of information about contact with non-human intelligence. On the other hand, Elon Musk is skeptical about the idea of the existence of aliens in our part of the galaxy. He believes that, in the next few hundred years, humanity will not be able to reach distant cosmic distances, and that aliens are unlikely to be interested in a small planet on the outskirts of the galaxy. Musk is convinced that human consciousness is a unique phenomenon and it needs to be preserved. These statements by influential figures fuel interest in the UFO topic, even though they don't provide concrete facts. It's amazing that people in ancient times were interested in extraterrestrial objects, and they saw UFOs and aliens in everything. As the saying goes, there's no smoke without fire. Therefore, it's impossible to be 100% sure that there are no extraterrestrial objects or beings on our planet. What do you think? Write your opinion in the comments below the video. Could the US government have any contact with extraterrestrial life nowadays? Yonaguni Monument. Off the coast of Japan, near Yonaguni Island, lies one of the most mysterious underwater objects, the Yonaguni Monument. This massive structure was discovered in 1986 by Japanese diver Kiichiro Aratake. The structure lay at a depth of about 25 meters and resembles giant terraces and platforms, giving the impression of an ancient megalithic complex. The origin of the Yonaguni Monument is still a subject of debate. Some scientists believe that the structure is a natural geological formation that has undergone erosion. However, the symmetry and distinct lines resembling steps and walls lead many researchers to suggest that it is a man-made structure. Supporters of the ancient civilization theory point to possible similarities with other megalithic structures, such as the pyramids of Egypt or the structures in Malta. These hypotheses raise questions about what technologies could have been used to create such structures thousands of years ago. The most intriguing hypothesis is that of extraterrestrial intervention. Some researchers believe that such complex, massive constructions could only have been created with special knowledge, technologies passed on by alien visitors. The Yonaguni Monument continues to attract the attention of scientists and mystery enthusiasts from all over the world. The collision at altitude, the Boeing 737. Max was flying at 9,000 meters where there are no birds, no drones, and no weather anomalies. And suddenly, something hit the side of the fuselage. It was sharp and without warning, as if someone had poked the plane at a speed unattainable by any known object. After landing, the technicians found a perfectly round dent. Not an ice mark, but a smooth geometry, like the imprint of a tool. No fragments, no particles, no material to help understand what it was. The object didn't break apart or leave any traces, it just passed by. The radar showed nothing. The military ruled out their own craft, and there were no satellites along that path. And yet the impact is a fact. The instruments recorded it, the crew heard it, and the metal remembered it. Such collisions are rarely discussed publicly, but this case made it into the media. Contact with an unidentified object. No one has yet explained exactly what collided with the plane at an altitude of 9 kilometers. Out-of-place artifact. Out-of-place artifacts are discoveries that do not fit at all into the traditional understanding of our history. They're found in locations and geological layers where they don't belong. The most amazing thing is that based on their age and level of complexity, such objects simply could not have been created in times when, as it is believed, no advanced technologies existed. Official science often declares such finds to be fakes or simply ignores them. But there are more and more of them, and it's no longer possible to turn a blind eye. Let's take, for example, the mysterious Baigong metal pipes discovered in China. These pipes go deep into the ground and stretch all the way to the shores of lakes. Their age is estimated at 150,000 years. The composition of the pipes, which includes iron and other minerals, along with their ancient origin, baffles researchers. Some believe that this is the result of natural processes, but others think that the pipes could be traces of advanced development. Some even suggest they were left by extraterrestrials. Nevertheless, the mysterious forged nail, which is over 350 million years old, remains unexplained. This nail was found in a layer of rock dating back to the Paleozoic era, a time when neither humans nor even metalworking existed. How could such a nail end up in ancient rock layers? Some scientists suggest tectonic processes, while others talk about the involvement of previously unknown civilizations. In Provence, fossilized tools were found that could have been made by humans or even from ancient trees. If this is true, such findings indicate the existence of intelligent beings who had woodworking skills long before the first known civilizations appeared. Other discoveries are even stranger. In Antarctica, the Eltanin antenna was found, which at first looked like a high-tech object. However, it was later discovered that it was just a sea sponge. Nevertheless, the very fact of such a misconception shows how much we can be mistaken when faced with the inexplicable. The traces of the Paluxy River are another mystery. Near the dinosaur tracks, giant humanoid footprints were found. This discovery calls into question our understanding of the chronology of life on Earth. After all, according to the theory of evolution, dinosaurs and humans never coexisted. There are other examples as well. The anomaly on Mount Ararat, which is associated with Noah's Ark, the clay figurine from Nampa, whose age is unclear, or the wolf's egg iron, which is considered a remnant of a prehistoric era. Let's not forget about the Tucson artifacts. This is a collection of 31 lead objects found in 1924 near Picture Rocks, Arizona. These artifacts include crosses, swords, and other items engraved with inscriptions in Latin and Hebrew, as well as images resembling medieval symbols. It was originally assumed that they were created by ancient Mediterranean civilizations that supposedly crossed the Atlantic. Later, many scholars considered them a hoax created in modern times to mislead researchers. In any case, each of these artifacts calls our understanding of the past into question and opens the door to new theories and research. Perhaps our history is far more astonishing and mysterious than we could have imagined. The living meteorite. At the end of August, a resident of Panama who introduced himself as Kin posted a video online that instantly went viral. The footage shows a small stone lying on scorched ground. Something dark and shiny, resembling tentacles, is oozing from its cracks. When touched, they burned leaves, and the stone itself seemed to breathe, emitting steam. Kin claims he found it in a crater after a flash in the night sky. In the first days, it seemed like science fiction, but then Kin showed that the object was growing, especially in the light. He kept it at home and later in a safe because it's calmer at night. That's when it sleeps. He claimed he sent samples to friends for analysis, but the results were never published. Scientists were in no hurry to comment. On social media, people argued whether it was an alien organism or just the common fungus Clathrus archery, known as devil's fingers. It really does grow out of the ground, spreads a foul smell, and looks almost the same in the dark. But here, a lot of things didn't add up. The shape was different, the structure was metallic, and the glow wasn't typical for either plants or fungi. Kin kept filming. In the last video, the object was fully covered with growths, looking like the stone had become living flower. After that, the account was deleted, and only copies and mirrors of the videos remain. Of course, the story might turn out to be fake, but the very phenomenon of how quickly such stories gain millions of views says something else. Humanity needs a miracle. Not because it's real, but because it brings back the feeling that space can invade our everyday life at any moment. Tombs are not for people. Archaeologists are used to interpreting everything within familiar frameworks. If there's a stone box, then it must be a sarcophagus. Egypt and Peru have preserved burials that don't fit the human scale. In Saqqara, there are granite boxes weighing 60 to 70 tons each. They are crafted with jeweler's precision, but inside they are so huge that a single human body would look tiny in them. It's inconvenient for several people. Why are they so large? On the other side of the world, in the Andes, tiny stone sarcophagi have been found. Their proportions are so small that an adult body simply wouldn't fit in them. The official version is that these are children's burials or symbolic rituals. Then why were they crafted with the same skill as royal tombs? Another mystery is the emptiness. Many of these sarcophagi contain no traces of burial, no bones, no funerary objects. It's as if they were never used as tombs. And then a theory appears that these are not tombs, but capsules, containers in which those who were not human were once stored or transported. Too big, too small, different. Maybe the answer lies here as to why the myths of almost all peoples speak of gods who came from the sky. The search for the divine machine. After the death of Isaac Newton, it turned out that he was also fascinated by alchemy. This discovery shocked the scientific community. After all, alchemy was seen as a mystical delusion, far from rational knowledge. In 1936, the economist John Maynard Keynes bought a chest of Isaac Newton's unpublished manuscripts at an auction. Instead of scientific treatises, there were his notes on esoteric theology and alchemy. Newton believed that the universe was a coded message from God and searched for the key to unraveling the divine plan. He studied the works of the Rosicrucians, a secret society from the 16th century that sought the philosopher's stone and the elixir of immortality. His library contained 169 books on alchemy, including translations of classic occult treatises. Although today alchemy is considered a pseudoscience, for Newton it was part of the great search for truth. He saw no boundaries between science, philosophy, and mysticism, believing that everything was interconnected. Perhaps it was this broad perspective that allowed him to make his revolutionary discoveries. Secret spectra. It would seem that if we are dealing with just an exotic guest comet, scientists should be happy with every open file, upload data to archives, and discuss it at conferences. This is partly what happens, but the more closely you look at the story of Comet Atlas's approach, the more strange locks and restricted access labels you find. In European databases, you can see that almost all spectral observations of this object are closed until April 2026. This can still be explained by the teams wanting to process the data quietly. But next to it, there is one special file, access to which is restricted until January 1st, 2099. 74 years of silence for a single data packet about an ordinary comet. That's a period comparable to the classification of military archives. No official explanation is given. The protocols contain dry project numbers and references to internal agreements. In such an atmosphere, even the calmest person can't help but wonder what exactly they saw in the spectra of the interstellar object. It's as if only people who haven't been born yet are allowed to discuss this. The greatest mystery of the world, off the coast of the Japanese island of Yonaguni, underwater ruins of an ancient city have been discovered, estimated to be 10,000 years old. This complex, which resembles a pyramid, a castle, temples, an arch, and a stadium, is connected by roads. In 2007, marine biologist Masaki Kimura described the main structure as a monolithic stepped pyramid, 25 meters high. He suggested that the structures were built by the Jomon people, who lived on these islands 14,000 years ago. However, Professor Robert Schoch from Boston University expressed the opinion that the Yonaguni Monument is a natural geological formation. It has been 37 years since the Japanese Atlantis was first discovered in 1986, but its origin is still shrouded in mystery. Kimura proposed a theory that it was part of the continent of Mu, lost due to a catastrophe. He also found stone images, including an underwater sphinx. Seismologist Toru Uchi from Kobe University supported Kimura's hypothesis, rejecting the assumption that the structures were of natural origin. However, Professor Schoch stands by his opinion, claiming that the structure is not man-made and its characteristics are the result of natural processes. So, the depths of the sea near Yonaguni continue to hold the mystery of these amazing structures, remaining a subject of discussion and research among scientists. The discovery of the Sirius star. The Dogon tribe living in Malay, Africa, has long attracted the attention of researchers and anthropologists thanks to their unique and ancient knowledge about the star Sirius. This knowledge is astonishing in its accuracy. The Dogon claimed that Sirius is not just a bright star visible to the naked eye, but that it also has a companion, Sirius B, which is invisible without special instruments, and was only discovered by Western scientists in 1862. According to Dogon mythology, their ancestors received this knowledge from mysterious beings, whom they call Nomo. According to legend, these beings arrived on Earth from Sirius and taught the Dogon astronomy, agriculture, and other important sciences. The information the Dogon preserve about Sirius is astonishing in its accuracy. They knew that Sirius B is a small and extremely dense star, which is amazing for a people who had no access to modern astronomical instruments. This knowledge has given rise to many hypotheses and theories about the possible contact of the Dogon with an extraterrestrial civilization. Ancient astronaut theorists believe the ancient Dogon could only have gained such precise astronomical knowledge from an advanced extraterrestrial race. Some anthropologists and historians believe
знания догонов могли быть
were invented not by mythical beings, but by European missionaries and explorers who visited Africa in the past. There is a suggestion that the Dogon may have learned about Sirius B through interactions with scientists in the 19th or early 20th century, and then integrated this information into their myths and legends. Trillions of alien sensors. Richard Bandulich speaks quietly, like a man who knows his words are already being recorded. Former NASA and Lockheed Martin engineer, He spent decades designing propulsion systems and now claims that the Earth is dotted with invisible devices of extraterrestrial origin. He says they've been here a long time and now we're starting to find them. According to him, we're not talking about ship debris, but about a network of tiny sensors, trillions of microscopic structures scattered across the planet. Some of them, he claims, are able to change shape and camouflage themselves with their surroundings. His team supposedly observed one such fragment under a microscope. The metal was pulsing, as if it understood it was being watched. Bandelich claims he saw these objects dissolve into dust as soon as someone tried to study them. But the analysis revealed something that shouldn't be there. The isotopic composition doesn't match anything known on Earth. Following the publication, his access was revoked, the lab transferred to a private entity, and the engineer was removed from his position. Now he speaks openly. These are not our technologies. They are too ancient, too sophisticated. According to him, the network works as a sensor observation system, not for attack, but for registering life, an invisible web of antennas that has enveloped the planet. You can be skeptical about the engineer's words, but with every discovery that hints at artificial interference in the natural order of things, the line between the incredible and the quite possible becomes thinner. Sometimes it feels like we are being studied with the same interest with which we observe other worlds. $2 billion for silence about aliens?
Известный уфолог
Greer was once again in the spotlight. He stated that he received a generous offer from a high-ranking U.S. government official, a person he calls one of the top UFO experts. According to Greer, he was offered a huge sum just to keep quiet. Greer founded the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence back in 1990. In recent years, he has repeatedly made claims about contact with aliens and secret government operations. His reputation is controversial, even among psychologists. Some see him as a brave whistleblower, while others consider him a fanatic without evidence. He said that in 1992, General Albert Stubblebine, the former head of U.S. military intelligence, allegedly personally offered him $2 billion to give up his public activities. At that time, Greer was just over 30. He was a young doctor, and according to him, seriously considered it, but refused. He believed that all of this was part of a large-scale disinformation operation involving the CIA and other agencies. The host of the podcast, where this story was told, expressed doubt, calling it hard to believe. But Greer insists he is ready to take lie detector tests, and his wife can confirm everything, he said. However, General Stubblebine died in 2017 and can no longer refute or confirm this story. The oldest doll in Italy. Recently, archaeologists in Italy discovered a clay figurine about 7,000 years old. This treasure was carefully preserved by the Grotta di Battifrata, where the first agricultural communities on the peninsula lived. This artifact is a real rarity, especially for Italy, where such finds are almost non-existent. The figurine represents a doll, whose face is depicted rather schematically, but the most interesting thing is her hairstyle and jewelry, which are made with special attention to detail. Just think about it. 7,000 years ago, people used this cave not only as a source of water or a place for living, hunting, and farming. They held their rituals there. It seems that this little clay doll was one of the main figures in these ceremonies. Unfortunately, we still have little concrete evidence about exactly how these ancient rituals took place, but this figurine is a valuable key to unlocking the mysteries of the past. So subscribe to the channel, and together we'll learn more about the mysterious history of the Battifrata Cave and its ancient inhabitants. San Agustin sculptures. Deep in the tropical forests of Colombia, in the San Agustin Archaeological Park, there are figures of an ancient culture. These sculptures, created more than 1,000 years ago, amaze with their mysterious shapes and unusual features. Local archaeologists and researchers believe that they may represent mythical creatures or even aliens. The San Agustin sculptures depict anthropomorphic and zoomorphic beings with disproportionately large heads, big eyes, and strange accessories. Some figures have wings, others have anthropomorphic bodies with animal features. These characteristics raise questions about the beliefs and symbolism of the ancient culture. One of the most intriguing figures is the so-called flying man, who resembles modern depictions of an alien with wings. Some researchers suggest that these sculptures may have been connected to astronomical observations or rituals aimed at communicating with celestial beings. The San Agustin Archaeological Park is the largest collection of prehistoric monumental sculptures in South America, featuring more than 500 statues. These artifacts provide a unique insight into a culture that left behind few written records, but enriched the world with its mysterious art. 1. On October 24th, the Meerkat radio telescope in South Africa picked up a signal that had previously been listened for without success. At frequencies of 1665 and 1667 MHz, a dip appeared, a weak absorption that occurs when a radio wave passes through a cloud of cold gas. Usually this is detected in ordinary comets, but here, everything was stranger. The signal appeared suddenly, just once, and vanished just as quickly, like a flashlight switched on and off for a second. Scientists said this was due to the radio wave interacting with the shell's material, but there's a catch. The object predates the sun. After billions of years, its surface should be nearly burned out, and its gas emissions extremely weak. However, instead of that, 3I Atlas showed activity precisely at the moment it passed a certain point in its trajectory, as if it was reacting to something external. This short signal doesn't resemble a transmission or a code. It's too weak and too fragmented. But in the history of observing interstellar objects, nothing like this has ever happened before. If a comet remains silent its entire life and then suddenly responds just once, especially at the moment when a shock wave from a solar flare passes nearby, you can't help but think we're dealing with something that can change its state, not just evaporate under the rays of a star. Scientists cautiously talk about unusual gas activity, but more and more people are noticing 3I Atlas is behaving as if it's not just flying by, it's responding. A medieval helmet on Mars. On August 5th, the Perseverance rover photographed a strange rock. In the photo, it looked like an old helmet, half buried in the sand. The top is pointed, the sides smoothly converge, and the surface is covered with many small spheres. Scientists named the find Hornflyer and immediately noted, such a texture has never been seen on Mars before. These tiny spheres are mineral formations that evaporate during weathering, deposition, or under the influence of water. But on the Horn, there are so many of them that the entire surface looks as if it's covered with pearls. This can't be explained by ordinary erosion. It's possible that for millions of years, groundwater saturated with minerals passed through the rocks, and each drop left a trace. Or, on the contrary, a stream of hot gases etched the surface, leaving scorched bubbles. The rover's instruments have already detected similar structures, but never in such numbers. On Earth, such formations are typical for areas with active hydrothermal activity, places where underground water meets heat. If this analogy is correct, it means that not only was there moisture in the crater and lake, but also circulation similar to what supports life near underwater volcanoes. Right now, Perseverance is on the crater's northern edge, climbing sedimentary layers like an archaeologist exploring ancient city levels. With each meter, this becomes more obvious. This helmet is not a random shape, but another reminder that the planet was not always a dead desert. The unusual shape of the asteroid Oumuamua. In 2017, astronomers detected a mysterious object that passed through the solar system. Named Oumuamua, which means messenger from afar in Hawaiian, it became the first known interstellar asteroid. But its most amazing feature is its shape. With a length of 230 meters and a width of only 35, it turned out to be abnormally elongated, which is not typical for asteroids. Chinese astronomers suggested that such objects are formed as a result of tidal disruption. This happens when a celestial body comes too close to a massive planet or star and breaks apart. In their calculations, the best creator of such asteroids is a system with a red dwarf and a gas giant located close to the star. Some scientists believe that Oumuamua could have been a fragment of a planet or a planetesimal, the building material of young worlds. However, even under the best conditions, such objects form extremely rarely. So its appearance is a true interstellar rarity, possibly the only one in our entire history of observation. Aliens inside the Earth. When we talk about extraterrestrial life, we look up at the sky. We wait for signals from Mars, Venus, Jupiter's moons, or distant galaxies. But there is a much more disturbing theory. We should be searching not above, but below, right under our feet. At depths of hundreds of kilometers beneath the Earth's crust, there are zones that humans have never seen. There are no direct observations there, only indirect data from seismology and magnetic anomalies. Scientists have detected strange bursts of heat that can't be explained by the movement of magma. In some places, mysterious sources of radiation are recorded where there shouldn't be any. And then there are the myths. Ancient legends spoke of underground gods, of beings that lived in the depths of the earth and would occasionally come to the surface. In the 20th century, this idea was revived. The Hollow Earth hypothesis, secret Third Reich expeditions to Antarctica, stories about entrances to underground worlds at the North and South Poles. Science considers this to be wild imagination. But then why do many geophysical anomalies still have no explanation? Modern ufologists claim that some UFOs do not come from outer space at all. They emerge from the oceans, from underground, from cracks and faults, as if their real base is not in distant stars, but right here on our planet. If that's true, a chilling thought arises. While we look for neighbors in the stars, our real neighbors may have been living beneath us all along. Maybe they're the ones who decide how much we can know about the universe. Fragments of alien technology. Avi Loeb from Harvard University suggests that he found particles of extraterrestrial technology in a meteorite that fell off the coast of Papua New Guinea in 2014. These fragments were delivered to Harvard for research, and the U.S. Space Command confirmed with 99.999% certainty that the material came from another solar system. Loeb and his team went to the meteorite impact site on the ship's Silver Star. They discovered 10 spherules metallic balls, colored gold, blue, and brown, some of which resembled miniature Earths. Analysis showed that the spherules contain 84% iron, 8% silicon, 4% magnesium, and 2% titanium. Loeb emphasized that these materials are stronger than any space rocks ever recorded by NASA and were moving at a speed of 60 kilometers per second, which is faster than 95% of all stars near the Sun. These results suggest an artificial origin of the spherules, which could provide unique insight into materials beyond our solar system. The researchers suggest that the spherules may be part of a larger discovery, which they plan to investigate in future expeditions. The contact hinted at by Bush Sr. One phrase by George Bush Sr. has long since become legendary. When he was asked about UFOs, he simply replied, "There are some events from the 60s that we are not going to explain." And almost everyone remembered one case of something unknown. New Mexico, 1964. Patrolman Lonnie Zamora saw a flash near a hill and thought it was an accident. But at the scene, he came across a metallic oval object on 4 legs and 2 small figures in white coveralls, shorter than a human, moving quickly like technicians doing their job. Zamora came closer and the object roared, rose vertically and disappeared. On the ground, there were prints from the supports, melted sand, and traces of heat exposure that did not match any known technology. An hour later, the FBI, Air Force, and CIA personnel got involved. Reports were collected, analyses were conducted, and everything was instantly classified as top secret. No attempts to ridicule the witness, no talk of fireballs or weather balloons, just silence. And when, years later, Bush hinted at events that were too early to discuss, it became clear to many that he was talking about this very encounter, one of the most well-documented cases of a landing by an unknown object. The mysteries of the Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas, also known as the Devil's Bible, is an ancient manuscript that holds many secrets. Created in the 13th century, it impresses with its size and content. Inside the book, you can find not only the texts of the Old and New Testaments, but also an image of the devil himself, which takes up an entire page. However, the most intriguing are the astronomical maps, which appear unusually detailed for their time. This has given rise to many theories about the possible extraterrestrial origin of the knowledge used in creating the Codex. Some researchers believe that the manuscript may contain encrypted messages or knowledge passed down by extraterrestrial civilizations. Legend has it that the Codex Gigas was written by a monk in a single night with the help of the devil. What secrets does this mysterious manuscript hold? And is it possible that its pages contain encrypted keys to ancient knowledge that came from space? The Codex Gigas remains one of the most mysterious artifacts of antiquity, which we will definitely study someday. The Codex, water at the dwarf. When the TESS telescope transmitted the first data about the planet Toei 1846, B scientists expected to see yet another hot, lifeless sphere, a typical super-Earth orbiting a red dwarf. But with each new observation, it became clear this world does not fit into our usual ideas. TOI 1846b is almost twice the size of Earth and 4 times heavier. It orbits its star in just 4 days. It's so close that the surface temperature rises to 300 degrees. But even under such conditions, the instruments detected signals indicating something impossible: traces of water. Not oceans as we understand them, but deep layers of liquid hidden beneath a rocky crust or a dense atmosphere. The scientist is careful with his wording, but the essence remains. Even in hell, water can exist. And if it can, then the scenario for its preservation on planets is infinitely broader than we thought. It's like finding pottery in a place where there shouldn't be any clay. Nature constantly breaks its own laws. Toei 1846, B orbits a star that is more than 7 billion years old. It's an ancient system that has survived to a time when many of its neighbors have long since faded away. If there really is water there, it's older than all of human history, older than the Earth itself. Perhaps in this insane heat, there are chemical traces hidden of how water survives the death of planets, so that one day it can become their beginning again. Soon, the James Webb Telescope and the future extremely large telescopes, which are being built specifically in the Atacama, will look there. The driest places on Earth are searching for water hundreds of light years away. DNA that doesn't match. We're used to thinking that the human genetic code has been studied inside and out. But in reality, there are still mysteries in our DNA that no one can answer. Scientists call them unexplained insertions, fragments that don't match the evolutionary line. They don't resemble primate DNA, known viral traces, or random mutations. It's as if these pieces of code came from somewhere outside. There is a hypothesis that some of these sequences could have entered our DNA through ancient contacts, either with viruses or even with extraterrestrial organisms. It sounds like science fiction, but in recent years, the idea of panspermia has been openly discussed in scientific journals. Life could have been brought to Earth by meteorites or comets. And if that's the case, then it's possible that part of our genetic code is truly foreign. Some researchers go even further. They claim that there are structures in the human genome that are too orderly to be a coincidence. It's as if someone left a mark, a genetic watermark. Naturally, official science does not support such claims, but the very idea that an alien trace could be encoded in us turns our understanding of humanity upside down. And then we have to ask the question, who are we really? Are we the result of random evolution, or are we carriers of a message left by someone who lived long before us? Evidence of the existence of a parallel universe. A group of physicists from the US and Switzerland have announced a possible discovery that could change our understanding of reality. The researchers observed strange quantum anomalies in the particle accelerator that do not fit within the framework of classical physics. In their opinion, such anomalies could be the first hint of the existence of parallel worlds. One of the leading participants in the project suggested that this could be about the so-called shadow universe, an invisible reality that subtly interacts with ours at the subatomic particle level. While this data isn't fully confirmed, the observations alone have sparked a strong reaction in the scientific community. If the hypothesis is confirmed, it could become a real breakthrough. Humanity will come closer to understanding the multidimensionality of the universe, and in the future, to creating technology for traveling between dimensions. For now, all this sounds like science fiction, but such ideas are already ceasing to be pure theory. Earlier, scientists Paolo Bassani and João Maguete Feijó also expressed the opinion that the structure of the universe and the very fact of its existence may be closer to the biblical description than to the traditional scientific model. The line between science and metaphysics seems to be increasingly blurred. The Glözel tablet. In 1924, Clay tablets with mysterious symbols and images were discovered in the small village of Glozelle in France, which sparked heated debates in the scientific community. These artifacts, discovered by a young farmer named Émile Frat, turned out to be so unusual that it was impossible to link them to any known ancient civilization. The tablets contain symbols and images resembling ancient scripts, but their origin and meaning remain unclear. Some researchers have hypothesized that the Glozelle tablets could be evidence of a lost or unknown culture that developed in this region thousands of years ago. Another, more radical theory suggests that these tablets could be traces of extraterrestrial intervention, although there is very little evidence to support this. However, the tablets' authenticity is still questioned. Since their discovery, scientists have conducted numerous studies to determine whether they are genuine ancient artifacts or modern forgeries. To this day, neither version has received definitive confirmation, and the Glozelle tablets continue to remain one of the most mysterious
археологических находок 20 века.
Frog or jade birthgiver. Archaeologists have presented the first results of excavations at the Svinjarichka Chuka site in southern Serbia, and they turned out to be truly impressive. This site, located in the South Morava River basin, has become a real window into the past. Here, remains of settlements about 8,000 years old were discovered. The earliest finds date back to the early and middle Neolithic period, around 6,100 to 5,500 BC. Among the many artifacts, special attention was drawn to a small jade pendant resembling a frog or a figure in a birthing pose. It was found near one of the ancient houses. It weighs only a few grams and is no bigger than a matchbox, but its significance is enormous. Jade is not found in these parts, and its nearest source is in southern Bulgaria, which indicates complex connections between ancient communities. In addition to the jade figurine, researchers found 115 clay statuettes and remains of buildings, indicating permanent residence rather than temporary camps. People returned here later, during the Bronze and Iron Ages. One Bronze Age burial surprised even experienced archaeologists. In a stone box lay a person with more than 30 gold beads. Such luxury is unusual for the region and may be connected to the cultures of the lower Danube. The burial of a celestial guest. In 1901, an expedition of British archaeologists led by Lord Williams Campbell conducted excavations in one of the ancient tombs in the desert near the Pyramid of Giza. When they opened the massive sarcophagus, the researchers made a sensational discovery. Inside was a mummy that was significantly different from all known remains of ancient Egypt. The creature's height exceeded 2.5 meters, and its skull was unusually elongated and narrow, resembling the depictions of gods on the walls of Egyptian temples. The bones turned out to be significantly denser than those of humans, and their structure indicated increased strength, but adapted for living in different conditions. The strangest thing was that there were no traces of embalming or autopsy on the body, yet it was perfectly preserved, as if it had been in stasis. Archaeologists found engravings on the sarcophagus referencing a messenger from the stars who came during the pharaoh's era. The hieroglyphs hinted at beings who descended from the sky and taught the ancient Egyptians architecture and astronomy. Some of the symbols resembled star maps, and on the inner walls of the tomb, there were images of flying disc-shaped objects. This discovery has given rise to many theories, from alternative histories about Egypt's connection with extraterrestrial civilizations to speculations about a loss suffered by the human race. However, shortly after the excavation, the artifact disappeared without a trace. It was sent to a private collection, and mentions of it were quickly erased from official reports. The Fuente Magna Bowl, a mysterious artifact found near Lake Titicaca in Bolivia, also attracted the interest of archaeologists with its unusual imagery. The bowl, named Fuente Magna, is a large stone vessel with unusual inscriptions on its surface. These inscriptions amazed researchers with their resemblance to Sumerian cuneiform, one of the oldest writing systems that originated in Mesopotamia. The unusual nature of the inscription gave rise to a theory about possible contacts between the ancient cultures of Mesopotamia and South America. Supporters of this hypothesis claim that the bowl could serve as evidence of unknown migration routes, or even ancient sea voyages that connected these distant regions. However, Skeptics point to the high likelihood of forgery. They argue that the bowl could have been created in a later period, possibly even in modern times, with the intention of causing a sensation. About 100 to 150 years ago, it was very popular around the world to create such objects in order to attract people to fairs and make money off gullible citizens. Despite this, the exact origin and meaning of the Fuente Magna bowl remain unsolved. It continues to attract the interest of archaeologists and lovers of ancient history mysteries. Baigong stone pipes. In a remote area of China, at the foot of Mount Baigong, amazing underground stone pipes have been discovered. These ancient structures, which are over 5,000 years old, are striking in their complexity and precision. Excavations have shown that the pipes go deep underground and come in various sizes, from small diameters of a few centimeters to huge ones over a meter in diameter. The technology used to create these pipes remains a mystery to modern scientists as to how ancient civilizations were able to carve and install such complex structures. Their origin and purpose remain unknown, which gives rise to many hypotheses and assumptions. Researchers suggest that these pipes could have been part of an ancient water supply or ventilation system. However, there is also a more intriguing theory. It is possible that the Baigong stone pipes are evidence of extraterrestrial involvement. The precision and scale of the construction make us wonder about the existence of ancient technologies that we still do not understand. Interestingly, similar artifacts are known from other places around the world, for example on the Colorado Plateau. The pipes here also have a diameter ranging from 50 centimeters to 1 meter. Archaeologists have found that inside these pipes are covered with an iron-containing crust. Something similar has also been found in Louisiana, USA. In this case, the diameter reaches 70 centimeters. Vitrified forts. In the mountains of Scotland, there are ruins that still make archaeologists argue. At first glance, it's an ordinary fortification from the Bronze and Iron Ages. The walls are made of stone, there are remains of dwellings and traces of campfires. But if you look closely, it becomes clear. The stones are melted. Entire sections of the walls look as if they've been through a furnace. The rocks have fused together and turned into a single glassy monolith. This is not the result of a fire. The melting point of sandstone is over 1,000 degrees. To achieve this effect, you would need to keep a fire burning for several days, creating an enclosed space where the heat doesn't escape. That means someone didn't just build these fortresses. They deliberately burned them, turning them into solid blocks. Experiments in the 20th century showed that this effect can only be achieved with artificial control. Scientists Wally Stornicroft and Veer Gordon Child repeated the process. They set fire to a wall made of slabs and wooden layers, then covered it with clay. After 3 hours of fire, the structure collapsed, but some stone parts fused together. Later, it became clear that the temperature had to be kept stable for several days, with a constant supply of oxygen. In other words, this was a technology, not an accident. Someone, at a time when metal was not yet in use, already understood how to control heat. Similar forts were later found throughout Northern Europe. More than 200 places where stone was melted by people. No one knows why it happened at that particular time. But in this strange knowledge of fire, which does not destroy but binds, there is a sense of something in.
Слишком продуманного для своего.
But it's as if this is not just ancient engineering, but a technology once passed down, the meaning of which we still cannot unravel. After all, we could see similar technology in ancient Egypt with melted steps. Anomalies figurines. One of the most mysterious artifacts of the African continent is the Anomalies figurines, found in Sierra Leone in West Africa. These ancient sculptures carved from stone depict strange creatures with disproportionately large heads, bulging eyes, and other unusual features that are not characteristic of human anatomy. Some of them even depict scenes that can be interpreted as mythological or religious. The unique shapes and features of these figurines have attracted the attention not only of archaeologists, but also of supporters of ancient astronaut theories. Some researchers believe that the Anomalies figurines may represent images of extraterrestrial beings with whom the ancient inhabitants of the region may have had contact. In their opinion, the strange proportions and features of the figurines may indicate that they were inspired by real beings of extraterrestrial origin. Although this theory has no scientific evidence, it adds an aura of mystery to the Anomalies figurines and attracts the attention of ufologists and lovers of mysticism. Official science regards the Anomalies figurines as religious or ritual objects and believes that these artifacts were most likely used in ancient ceremonies or rituals related to the worship of gods or spirits, as they could have symbolized certain mythological characters. As I have told you before, when archaeologists or historians cannot explain the origin of an artifact, it inevitably becomes an object of religious significance. Interestingly, Anomalies figurines are often found deep in the ground, sometimes together with other ancient artifacts, various iron objects, or weapons, which makes it more difficult to date them and determine their cultural context. Some findings suggest that these artifacts may have existed in very ancient times, possibly long before the emergence of known civilizations in this region. Life in the meteorite. Researchers studying a meteorite discovered on the island of Sri Lanka claim that it is not just a stone fragment from space, but a potential artifact of extraterrestrial origin. Analyses conducted revealed the presence of fossilized microscopic algae, which, according to scientists, may support the panspermia hypothesis, the idea that life spreads throughout the universe with the help of asteroids and comets. These discoveries have generated widespread interest, as they could confirm the theory of the existence of life beyond Earth. However, the results have been criticized by the scientific community. Some experts claim that the discovered fossils are too similar to terrestrial microorganisms that live in fresh water. The possibility of the meteorite being contaminated by terrestrial life forms while it was on the Earth's surface also remains a serious argument against the hypothesis of the find's extraterrestrial origin. Flying Tic Tac. Another UFO has been found on Mars. At least that's what social media users decided when they saw the strange photo taken by the NASA rover. Among the rocks and dust in the frame, a smooth cylindrical object appeared, resembling the famous Tic Tac mints. The play of light and shadow made it even more mysterious. It seems as if it is hovering above the surface. This picture wasn't taken yesterday. It was taken by the Curiosity rover back in 2020 during the search for traces of ancient life, but attention to it only flared up now when one of the Reddit users posted the photo with the caption, "Tic Tac on Mars." And then it all took off. Some even compared it to that very UFO that was observed in 2004 by U.S. Navy pilot David Fravor over the Pacific Ocean. At that time, the pilot described a perfectly white object without wings or windows, shaped like a tic-tac, which moved at incredible speed and suddenly disappeared from the radar. But if we go back to Mars, most likely, it's just an unusual rock. It appears to be flying because of the way the photo was taken in the shadows. Mars was sold at auction. At Sotheby's auction in London, a small piece of rock weighing 24.5 kilodon was brought into the hall. But this is not just a rock, it's a fragment of Mars, listed in the catalog as NWA 16788, the largest of all known Martian meteorites found on Earth. It was sold for $5.3 million, and as usual, the buyer's name was not disclosed. The story of this discovery began in 2023 in the Sahara Desert, in the territory of Niger. Local prospectors noticed a brownish-red lump among the sand, covered with a fusion crust. This is how the surface forms when entering the atmosphere, the moment when a space rock burns and melts on the outside, but remains cold on the inside. This shade is Martian. The chemistry of its surface completely matches the samples that were once brought to Earth by the Viking probes. When the meteorite was cut open, it contained olivine crystals, a porphyritic inclusion, and tiny gas bubbles identical to those recorded in the atmosphere of Mars. Its age is hundreds of millions of years. Once this piece was blasted off the surface of the planet by an asteroid impact and wandered through space until it fell to Earth. Now it belongs to a private collector. It might be put on display in a museum, or it might be locked away in a safe. It's hard to believe, but it's a fact. Someone now has a fragment of another planet sitting on their shelf. It's direct evidence that Mars had already sent us its messages long before we learned to send ours to it. Each such meteorite is not just a stone, it's a courier that traveled millions of kilometers to remind us that the connection between Earth and Mars began not with rockets, but with the impacts of celestial bodies. Gravity by Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was a brilliant artist, inventor, and scientist of the Renaissance era. But as it turned out, his mind was even more insightful than previously thought. A recent study showed that he anticipated the fundamental principles of gravity long before Isaac Newton. In his notes found in the Codex Arundel, da Vinci drew a diagram of an experiment. A jug moves in a straight line, and the grains of sand pouring out of it fall straight down. He analyzed its trajectory and realized that the fall follows acceleration. This means that Leonardo understood that gravity is a force that causes objects to accelerate, but he went even further. In his notes, he used geometric shapes to describe the patterns of motion. He noticed that if the jug moves with the same acceleration as the falling particles, a perfect isosceles triangle is formed. This was the first step toward calculating the gravitational constant. Although his mathematical calculations were inaccurate, the error was only 3%. Da Vinci didn't have time to bring his ideas to completion, but if his discoveries had been noticed earlier, perhaps the science of gravity would have developed faster. 500 years later, we realize how far ahead of his time he was. Objects over Yorkshire. In Yorkshire, people began photographing strange dark ovals hanging low over the horizon. At first, everyone thought they were birds or drones until new footage appeared, taken by different people on different days, but with the same shape and the same stillness. Experts examined the photos. No wingspan, no propellers, no characteristic motion blur. The object was hanging in the air as if nothing affected it, neither gravity nor wind. In one of the photos, a faint illumination could be seen along the outline, not bright, but even, as if the light was coming from within. Meteorologists ruled out atmospheric distortions, aviation, our own aircraft, astronomers, satellites, and still, there was no explanation. For several weeks, the objects appeared almost on schedule before sunset, along the same line of the horizon, and then suddenly disappeared. If it happened just once, it could be dismissed as a camera artifact, but the same glowing oval shadows were recorded in Canada, Asia, the USA, and Eastern Europe. Similar shapes, similar behavior, immobility, a smooth outline disappearing without a trace, as if someone is watching us. I'm most scared that people are talking about UFOs more often now. The mystery of the Ellora Caves. In India, in the state of Maharashtra, there is an amazing cave complex, the Ellora Caves. This architectural masterpiece, which includes 34 caves, is carved directly into the rock and represents a unique combination of Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain temples. The age of the structures dates back to the period between the 6th and 10th centuries. A.D., the Ellora Caves amaze with their precision and complexity. Some of them are enormous in size and feature exquisite details carved with astonishing precision. The Kailasa Temple is especially impressive, carved out of a single rock mass, and is considered the largest monolithic structure in the world. The technologies and methods used to create such complex and precise structures still remain a mystery. This mystery has given rise to many theories, including suggestions of extraterrestrial involvement. Some researchers believe that ancient builders might have possessed knowledge and technologies passed down by alien civilizations. This unique complex remains one of the most intriguing archaeological discoveries, raising more questions than answers. Jupiter's birthday. For a long time, Jupiter was considered the oldest planet in the solar system, but no one could say exactly how much older it is than Earth. Now we have an answer. A group of planetary scientists from Japan and Italy calculated that the giant was born just 1.8 million years after the formation of the solar system. In cosmic terms, that's just a moment, but it was this very moment that determined the fate of all the other planets. The scientists used an unusual method, computer modeling of the behavior of chondral silicate microspheres, which billions of years ago floated in the dust cloud from which the planets were forming. These microscopic particles contain the signatures of the first catastrophes, collisions, flares, and evaporations. By their age and composition, it's possible to reconstruct the pace of Jupiter's birth. The models showed that the giant appeared when the rest of the solar system was just beginning to condense. At that time, its mass was comparable to Mars, but its gravity was already working like a vacuum cleaner, pulling everything in around it. It was Jupiter that became the first force to change the balance of the young system. It pulled in gas, shuffled orbits, disrupted the formation of several planets, and possibly even saved Earth by taking millions of comet impacts upon itself. This reconstruction makes Jupiter not just a neighbor, but a founder. It is the first sign of living movement in the chaos, the center around which the others formed. It's ironic that the largest bright object after the Sun came from what seems like a childish experiment by the universe. Jupiter emerged like a Mars embryo, gained mass in just a few million years, and became the one who determined everything else. 4.5 billion years have passed since then. But even now, looking at it through a telescope, you can imagine how a planet was born from a hot cloud of gas, the first to learn how to be a giant. Venus is a planet that breathes. If Mars is called our potential second home, then Venus is called hell. Everything there is against life. Heat close to 500 degrees pressure, like at a depth of a kilometer in the ocean, and clouds of sulfuric acid. But in 2020, the world was shocked by the news. Phosphine was discovered in the atmosphere of Venus. On Earth, it appears in 2 cases, in the laboratory and as a byproduct of living organisms. Back in the 1970s, Soviet probes transmitted mysterious images. There were objects in them that looked like rocks, which changed position. Scientists were quick to write it all off as technical defects. After phosphine was discovered, many recalled these photos. Now the question is, what if there's life on Venus? Not what we're used to, but something different. The kind that has learned to survive in acidic clouds and use poison like air. If there is life where it shouldn't exist, then our Earth is not a unique miracle. We are not the exception. We are just one of the forms that happen to survive on our planet. A computer that is 2,500 years old, the Aegean Sea, April 1900. Just 100 meters off the coast of a small island, divers discovered the site of an ancient shipwreck at a depth of 45 meters. For 2 years, researchers and archaeologists studied the wreckage, among which they found part of a metal box encrusted with corals and created in the 2nd century BC. This device is the first mechanical computer ever discovered by mankind. The mechanism is 1,500 years older than any similar artifact and contains dozens of gears that control the device. It is believed that the analog computer could have been used to predict astronomical events. Ancient Greece, as it turns out, had knowledge of mechanics and could create such a device, which completely changes our perception of history. It is believed that the ship set sail from the shores of the island of Rhodes, since this place was considered a haven of advanced technology at that time. Poets of ancient Greece repeatedly mentioned in their works living statues, capable of freezing in place or starting to move, as if life had been breathed into them. It is quite possible that these were not just literary devices, but the first prototypes of robots created by humans. The Greeks claimed that they received knowledge from gods who descended to them from the heavens. It is possible that in this way they explained encounters with aliens who decided to share their technologies with humanity. Alien visitors in Egypt. Recent archaeological excavations in Egypt have led to a sensational discovery that has attracted the attention of the whole world. Archaeologists have found artifacts in the Giza Plateau area that, according to some scientists, may be evidence that aliens visited Earth 5,000 years ago. It began with excavations in newly discovered Giza. Among the items found, metal plates with mysterious symbols and images of flying objects stood out in particular, which resembled modern UFOs. Analysis of the artifacts showed that they are covered with inscriptions in an unknown language. Some scientists suggest that this could be a message from extraterrestrials, which the ancient Egyptians might have perceived as contact with another civilization. Linguists are already working on deciphering these symbols, but so far the results have also drawn attention to images of unidentified flying objects on the plates, which, according to ufologists, could be diagrams of an alien ship. It seems to me that so far the researchers have made a lot of hasty conclusions, and most likely the interpretation of these plates will be more down to earth. Therefore, it's better to wait until the study of these artifacts is completed and find out what the symbols represent and why they are there. The billionaire was accused of trying to hide a UFO. British ufologist and director Mark Christopher Lee made a sensational statement. According to him, evidence of the existence of aliens has already been obtained, but it is being carefully hidden from the public. At the center of this story is Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, who, according to Lee, is funding a research project called Breakthrough Listen. It was this program, which searches for extraterrestrial signals, that detected a strange radio signal 2 years ago coming from the Proxima Centauri system, the star system closest to us, located just 4.2 light years from Earth. Initially, it was explained as ordinary satellite interference. However, Professor Simon Holland, former science editor at the BBC and NASA consultant, refuted this version. According to him, the signal has all the characteristics of extraterrestrial origin. Researchers from Cambridge have allegedly already discovered signs of biological activity on an exoplanet in this system, but they are not publishing the data yet due to possible political consequences. There is a concern that if this information becomes public too soon, it could cause panic or an international race for contact. Holland and Lee believe that the dissemination of such data is strictly controlled. It is also possible that scientists from China or Russia might try to make such information public first. The future of humanity on Mars. Elon Musk does not give up on the idea of colonizing Mars. He is confident that as early as 2027, automated starships will land there, and by 2031, expeditions may be able to reach the Red Planet. But how will society be organized on Mars? Elon Musk claims that the Martian colony should be completely self-sufficient, without any dependence on Earth's governments. At the same time, he advocates abandoning representative democracy in favor of direct popular governance. A similar system existed in Veliki Novgorod from 1136 to 1478. The townspeople gathered at the Vesh and made important decisions themselves: laws, peace treaties, the rule of the prince. Essentially, Musk is proposing something similar. In his opinion, Mars is a chance for humanity to start with a clean slate and survive if Earth finds itself on the brink of catastrophe. Millions of dollars spent on observing UFOs. In the south of England, in the fogs of Norfolk, there is an old Royal Air Force base. Once Soviet bombers were monitored from here, and now a man lives here who has declared war on the sky, millionaire William Sachiti. He bought the entire complex along with the huge Type 84 radar from the Cold War era, and he turned the underground bunker into a headquarters for hunting UFOs. Outside there are overgrown antennas, concrete, and rust. Inside there are server racks, monitors, and artificial intelligence that Sachiti calls the radar bot. This program analyzes radio signals and reports if something appears in the sky that doesn't look like a plane or a satellite. Anyone can connect to the system, buy an antenna for $25, and observe the sky within a 200-kilometer radius. The more antennas there are, the wider the network. He says he's not doing this for the money. There's no point in being the richest person in the cemetery. But right here, under layers of concrete, he created something that even governments are afraid of. An open database of all strange signals over Britain. Ironically, it all started with a childhood story. When he was a schoolboy from Zimbabwe, he saw a glowing spot over a field and heard other kids shouting, "It's a UFO." Decades passed, and now he has his own radar, his own station, and the right to watch the sky without any permissions. Alien artifacts on Earth. History holds discoveries that don't fit into any chronology. In Turkey, at the temple complex of Göbekli Tepe, there are columns with carvings of animals and abstract symbols. They are about 12,000 years old. Officially, at that time, people didn't yet know agriculture or architecture. But here we see engineering, design, and symbolism that haven't been fully deciphered. Who built this complex? And why was it later buried? As if someone was trying to hide it. In South America, at Sacsayhuaman, giant stone blocks are fitted together so tightly that you can't even fit a blade between them. Stones weighing hundreds of tons are laid with perfect precision, with polygonal faces. Modern technology can barely replicate such joints. So, 500 years ago, the Incas had something they themselves called the technology of the gods. On the other side of the world, in Baalbek, there's a stone known as the Southern Megalith. Its weight exceeds 1,000 tons. No one has yet explained how the ancient Slavs could have moved it. But the fact remains, this block has been worked, and it was clearly intended for construction. The only question is, by whose hands? Similar discoveries include the Ural metal spirals, the megalithic platforms of Tiwanaku, and the perfectly drilled holes in the stones of Egypt, which give the impression of work done by high-precision machinery. Every culture has artifacts that seem to be invented out of their time. Scientists explain this with primitive technologies, coincidence, and the play of nature. But why do these coincidences keep repeating? They happen worldwide, across eras and cultures. The theory that these are traces of aliens is convenient not because it's sensational, but because too many things start to fit into one picture. And if these really are artifacts left by someone else, then their purpose could have been simple: to show that we are not the first, and that everything we build today is just a faint echo of what was already here thousands of years ago. Eco Museum of Zone 21. In Cusco, there is a place that even archaeologists speak about with caution. Zone 21 is not a museum, but an area where everything is too technological for the Inca era. Stone platforms there are so smoothly crafted, it seems they were cut not with primitive tools, but with something possessing perfect vibration. Nearby, blocks with unusual shapes don't look like temples or utility buildings. The angles are too precise, the surfaces too smooth, and there are marks that look like imprints from machines. Local legends call this area the place where the gods of light descended. And the strangest thing, it is exactly above these slabs that beams of light are regularly recorded. Thin vertical columns that appear for a couple of seconds. Drones detect spikes in the magnetic field. Compasses behave erratically there, as if something is hidden beneath the stone. Scientists call all this unexplored geological features, but they admit themselves. Zone 21 stands out too much from the context. It's too even, too precise. It's too similar to traces of work by those who knew how to shape stone differently than people in the 13th century. The ghostly Appalachians are a mountain range that's older than the Saturn's rings, and even older than the ozone layer. Its rocks formed 1.2 billion years ago, when the continents were still a single whole. This ancient landscape has inspired many legends, making the mountains one of Earth's most mysterious places. Among the dense forests and deep gorges, local people have told stories of mysterious creatures for centuries. The Mothman, the Wampus Cat, the Raven Mocker, and the Flatwoods Monsters. That's why today's social media is filled with discussions about mystical phenomena in the Appalachians. Scientists believe that the region's unique topography has contributed to the formation of a rich ecosystem. Ancient swamp forests hidden from civilization preserve an atmosphere of untouched wilderness. Folklorists note that in this landscape, it's easy to feel the presence of something ancient and powerful. Myths about mysterious creatures not only frighten, but also serve as a warning. Just like before, stories help people treat the wild with more caution. Perhaps there is something more in these legends, a memory of time itself, when humans first began to understand the world. The mystical stones of Jalisco, Piedras Grabadas de Ojuelos de Jalisco, are mysterious stones found in the Mexican state of Jalisco, carved with strange figures, scenes, and symbols. These stones have attracted the attention of researchers and UFO enthusiasts because of the images that some believe indicate contact between ancient civilizations and extraterrestrial beings. The stones depict people interacting with figures resembling aliens, as well as objects similar to modern representations of UFOs. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory claim that these stones could be important evidence that the ancient cultures of Jalisco really did encounter extraterrestrial beings, or at least perceive such contacts within their myths and legends. Despite their controversial nature and lack of scientific evidence, the stones continue to attract interest as a possible artifact reflecting the interaction between mythology and reality in ancient cultures. They still attract the interest of antiquities enthusiasts, raising questions about how our ancestors might have perceived or interpreted unusual phenomena. On September 4, 1971, in the northern highlands of Costa Rica, photographer Sergio Loaiza was conducting aerial photography of Lake Cote for the National Geographic Institute. Using a special cartographic camera that took a photograph every 13 seconds, he was doing his job, unaware that one of the shots would become unique. Upon returning to the laboratory, Sergio checked the photos and noticed a mysterious round metallic object in the right part of one of the pictures. It is noteworthy that the object which resembled a flying saucer, was not found in either the previous or the following frames. For some time, the National Geographic Institute tried to conceal the discovery, forbidding Sergio and his colleagues from talking about the incident. The metallic flying object, more than 18 meters in diameter, was kept under strict secrecy. But in 1979, the photograph appeared in an Argentine newspaper and was analyzed by experts. Soon, Costa Rica declared the photograph as official confirmation of the existence of UFOs. Despite years of study and debates among researchers in this field, no one has been able to say what this object is. Skeptics suggested that the object on the right side of the photograph is some kind of debris or a spot that got onto the film during the photo processing. In 2021, a family friend was able to obtain the original photograph in order to scan it using modern technology. This made it possible to digitize the photo, making it clearer and more detailed. Thanks to this, skeptics saw the saucer-shaped object in higher resolution. The updated photo made it possible to dismiss a number of mundane assumptions and theories, since it was not a smudge or a chip on the camera lens. So what was it? Share your thoughts in the comments. Copper object. This mysterious artifact made from a single piece of copper alloy puzzles researchers and collectors. The object is rather roughly cast and has visible defects. It has a head in the shape of a rectangular prism, which tapers from all sides to a sharp edge. The handle, smoothly rounded at the end, shows no signs of impact, which indicates that it was not used for striking in the usual sense. Interestingly, there used to be parallel scratch lines on the sides of the head, which have worn away over time. This may indicate repeated use of the artifact, possibly during cutting, grinding, or scraping. The estimated dating of the artifact ranges from 5 to 10,000 years, but its exact origin remains unclear. Some researchers hypothesize that this object could have been used for ritual purposes or as part of an unknown technological device. Supporters of alternative history believe that such artifacts could have been part of ancient, highly advanced tools created using technologies that surpass the capabilities of ancient metallurgists. The mystery of the Nan Madol ruins. The ruins of Nan Madol are a unique ancient city in Micronesia, located on artificial islands in a lagoon off the coast of Pohnpei. This mysterious complex, built from giant basalt blocks, is a sophisticated system of canals and structures erected on more than 90 artificial islands. The age of the structures is estimated to be over 1,000 years, and their purpose still remains unclear. The structure and construction technology of Nan Madol is impressive in its scale and complexity. Some blocks weigh up to 50 tons, and it is still unknown how the ancient builders moved and placed them with such precision. This mystery has led to many hypotheses, including suggestions about the possibility of extraterrestrial knowledge or technologies being used in the construction. Local legends speak of magic and supernatural forces being used in the construction of the city. The ruins of Nan Madol remain one of the most mysterious archaeological discoveries in the world, attracting the attention of both scientists and mystery enthusiasts. This ancient city, surrounded by water and myths, offers a unique window into the past and makes one wonder about possible contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. Signals from the depths of the galaxy. In 1977, the Big Ear radio telescope picked up a signal that lasted only 72 seconds. The scientist who noticed it wrote one word on the printout, "Wow," and to this day, no one has explained where it came from. Today we are detecting hundreds of mysterious bursts, fast radio bursts or FRBs. They last only a fraction of a second, but their power exceeds the energy of an entire galaxy. Sometimes they repeat, as if someone on the other end is trying to make contact. Scientists call these anomalous natural phenomena, but the truth is, we don't know their source. And if it's not nature, then who exactly is knocking on our door right now from across billions of light years? Tunnels under the pyramids. Under the Pyramid of Khafra in Egypt, archaeologists have reported the discovery of a mysterious system of underground structures. A study conducted using radar equipment revealed the presence of 5 identical structures with sloped roofs and 8 deep shafts, each of which goes deep into the ground.
148 метров.
According to the researchers, they are connected by 2 chambers about 80 meters wide. According to preliminary data, The total length of the underground complex exceeds 1.9 kilometers. Scientists suggest that the structures were created artificially, but their purpose remains unknown. Some are already calling it an underground city, capable of changing our understanding of the scale of structures in ancient Egypt. However, not all specialists agree with such bold conclusions. Professor Lawrence Conyers, an expert in ground-penetrating radar, expressed doubts about the reliability of the data. According to him, modern technologies do not allow us to look underground at such depth with the accuracy required for such statements. He urged caution and believes that the discovery can only be confirmed through actual excavations. The artifact Star Key. In 1932, a group of archaeologists exploring high-altitude monasteries in Tibet came across a strange object hidden in one of the ancient caves. Inside a stone niche, among ritual figurines and scrolls, they discovered a smooth metal disc covered with incomprehensible symbols. The inscriptions did not match any known ancient language, and the material from which the artifact was made shocked the scientists. It could not be scratched, did not react to high temperatures, and according to analysis, it was an alloy that did not occur in nature. The local monks called the "Find the Key to the Heavens" and claimed that the disc belonged to celestial visitors who had visited Earth thousands of years ago. Legend says the artifact was once part of a device that opened paths to other worlds. Some scientists suggested that the symbols on it could represent a map of the starry sky or a complex system of coordinates. The most intriguing fact was that the disc had unusual properties. If you brought a compass close to it, the needle would start spinning wildly. When illuminated with ultraviolet light, new previously invisible symbols appeared on its surface. Despite numerous studies, the artifact has not yet been deciphered. Has the first battle with aliens already taken place? On August 26, 1946, an American scientific expedition set out for the South Pole. It was led by naval officer and explorer Admiral Richard Byrd, who took part in World War I. The expedition involved 13 ships, 33 airplanes, and nearly 5,000 U.S. Navy sailors. The group under the admiral's command returned only after 9 months, reporting that they had to engage in battle with remnants of the Third Reich and possibly aliens. Flying objects attacked the members of the expedition and inflicted significant damage on the American group. Byrd stated in his report that he saw an unidentified device capable of moving at incredible speed, almost instantly changing its position. At that time, the admiral's statements, despite his high status, seemed like fiction. However, in 2018, a satellite image made it possible to see a contrail left by something moving at incredible speed. The trail stretched across the entire Earth, connecting the South and North Poles, which is about 20,000 kilometers. The maximum duration for the trail and its shape to remain is 30 minutes, with most of it starting to dissipate after just 15. Based on the data obtained, it can be said that the object that left the contrail was moving at a speed of at least 80,000 km/h, which is 10 times faster than the fastest airplane that existed at that time. The Battle of the Eclipse. Imagine this. 2 kings who have been fighting a fierce war for 5 years, losing their soldiers, but seeing no end to the confrontation. And suddenly, when the sky filled with the sounds of battle darkens, a solar eclipse occurs. At that moment, warriors on both sides freeze, lower their weapons, and watch in amazement as a natural phenomenon overshadows human rage. The kings decide to declare a truce. This event became known as the Battle of the Eclipse, which was written about by the Greek historian Herodotus. In 585 BC, on the Halys River in Asia Minor, where the Lydians led by King Alyattes and the Medes, under the command of Cyaxares, were fighting, an eclipse occurred that had been predicted earlier. Historians believe that it was the Greek astronomer Thales of Miletus who predicted it. This eclipse, which became the first in history to be predicted by a human, sparked a lot of debate. Predicting a solar eclipse is a difficult task, but calculations have shown that the eclipse did indeed occur in 585 BC, though not on the date Thales had supposed, which was May 18th, 584 BC. Some believe that Thales might have used data from previous observations, but his accuracy is questionable, especially given the lack of astronomical instruments and records from that time. Historians also argue about the details of the battle. For example, Pliny in his work mentions only the king of Lydia, while the name of the Median ruler remains in question. Despite these controversial points, the battle during the eclipse remains an important historical event. As a result of the eclipse, a truce was concluded, and the Halys River became the border between the two warring states. The mystery of the Jiroft civilization. In Iran, in the ancient city of Jiroft, archaeologists discovered unique artifacts. These findings, which are over 5,000 years old, are clay and stone items with images of unusual creatures and symbols. The figures with elongated heads and large eyes attract attention, as they resemble descriptions of extraterrestrial beings. The images on the artifacts of the Jiroft civilization are so unique and different from other known ancient cultures that some researchers have put forward the hypothesis of possible contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. These hypotheses are based on the idea that ancient artists might have depicted what they saw or heard about. The findings also include complex geometric patterns and symbols that have not yet been deciphered. This only adds to the mystery of this ancient culture. The Jiroft civilization, thanks to its mysterious artifacts, attracts the attention not only of archaeologists but also of enthusiasts of mysticism and the unexplained. Martian coral. On July 24, 2025, the Curiosity rover sent a photo that initially left scientists stunned. On the rock, there was a shape all too familiar to us from Earth. It looked like coral, a real fossilized coral, evidence that Mars might once have had an ocean teeming with life. NASA was quick to explain, no biology involved, just minerals that took on a strange shape due to water and wind erosion. It's a rock, not an organism. Our brain fills in familiar images where there are none. The official explanation sounds logical, too logical. But how many times have we heard the same thing? A rock just happens to look like a statue. A shadow just happens to look like a tower. A shape just happens to resemble the outline of a living creature. The story of coincidences becomes proof. Maybe it really is just nature at play, or maybe we're just not ready to hear the main thing. Mars was alive. And that's exactly why we're so drawn there, because deep down, we're coming home. Shiva Linga. In the city of Sirsi in India, there is a unique pilgrimage site called Sahasra Linga. Here, among the natural beauty, there are stone images of Shiva Linga that amaze with their appearance, especially during the festival of Mahashivaratri. At this time, the water level in the river drops, making the sculptures visible and attracting thousands of pilgrims and tourists who wish to see and worship the sacred lingams. Shiva Linga is a symbol of Shiva, one of the main deities in Hinduism, representing the source of creation and destruction. Interestingly, there are not only religious but also scientific debates surrounding the Shiva Linga. Some proponents of the ancient astronaut theory claim that the Shiva Linga is a powerful technological device, similar in function to a modern nuclear reactor. Based on the shape and properties of the linga, they suggest that ancient people might have used advanced technologies. On the other hand, modern scientists may interpret the Shiva Linga as a symbol of atomic energy, which also has the potential for both great benefit and destruction. This analogy highlights the dual nature of Shiva, who in the Hindu tradition is both a creator and a destroyer at the same time. Extraterrestrial metal in ancient burials. Archaeologists have made a sensational discovery in Poland that changes our understanding of the technological capabilities of ancient societies. In two early Iron Age burials, dated to 750 to 600 BC, researchers discovered 4 artifacts, 3 bracelets and a pin made from meteoritic iron. These items were found in Częstochowa in southern Poland and had been kept in the local museum for a long time. Only recently, with the help of modern technology, was it possible to determine their unique origin. Analysis of the metal composition using X-ray scanning and electron microscopy showed that the iron contains a high amount of nickel and cobalt, which is characteristic of rare ataxite meteorites. Moreover, the ornaments on the bracelets were probably made using different types of iron, possibly to create a pattern. This may be the oldest example of patterned iron known to mankind. Meteoric iron is not just a metal, In ancient times, it was often considered a gift from the heavens and used to create objects for special purposes. Similar finds exist, for example, in the tomb of Tutankhamun in Egypt, where a dagger made of meteoric iron was discovered. And now there is confirmation that such technologies were known in Europe centuries before Rome. Scientists suggest that the iron was probably obtained locally, possibly after the observed fall of a meteorite. This confirms that the items had not only practical but also ritual value. Where did the storm that raged for 350 years disappear to? Jupiter has always seemed eternal, a giant ocean of gas, bands of wind, and most importantly, its eye, the Great Red Spot, a storm larger than Earth, which spun for hundreds of years and was visible through telescopes since the time of Cassini. It was like a cosmic beacon, a landmark that never changed. And now it's gone. When data from James Webb and Juno matched, astronomers at first didn't believe it. The structure of the storm had really broken apart. What once looked like a giant crimson cyclone is now pale bands and traces of turbulence, as if someone wiped the spot off the surface of the gas giant. The reasons are explained scientifically: changes in winds, chaotic interactions of atmospheric currents, and the depletion of the storm's internal resources. But even scientists admit that the speed at which an entire centuries-old vortex disappeared goes beyond conventional models. A storm that lasted for centuries simply vanished in a matter of months. No astronomer expected such a pace. And while reports talk about atmospheric dynamics, people notice something much simpler. Something in our system is changing too quickly. A cubic UFO scared an airplane pilot. In February 2020, a plane on a routine flight in Colombia encountered an unusual airborne object. While at an altitude of over 9 kilometers, the captain took out his mobile phone to film a metallic object moving in a straight line. Something resembling a cube has nothing in common with a balloon or other objects capable of being at such an altitude. The distance from the plane to the object has not been determined, so its estimated diameter is between 3 and 5 meters. Scientists suggest that extraterrestrial civilizations are afraid of direct confrontation with humanity and are not ready for direct contact. The object caught on camera may be similar to a scout that ended up on Earth to observe us from a distance. Perhaps the aliens are studying us and slowly preparing to visit our planet. Is that really the case? Time will tell, however. The experts who reviewed the video have not reached a consensus. The object has no wings and leaves no trail behind. That means it's not a man-made device. Skeptics suggest that the metallic cube is just a balloon that expanded at an altitude of over 9 kilometers. But physicists are convinced that the low temperature would not have allowed it to rise that high. Fragments of the alien ship in the ocean. A well-known scientist from Harvard University, astrophysicist Avi Loeb, who became popular thanks to his research on UFOs and possible contacts with aliens, reported the possible discovery of fragments of an alien ship at the bottom of the ocean. Loeb became well known thanks to his theory about the unusual nature of the asteroid Oumuamua, which in 2017 accelerated and deviated from its expected trajectory for no apparent reason, leading the scientists to suggest it might have an artificial origin. Recently, Loeb turned his attention to a meteorite that fell into the Pacific Ocean in 2014. The object, known as IM-1, was notable for its unusual speed. The scientist went to the site where it fell and, together with his team, retrieved a fragment from a depth of 1,700 meters. As a result, they discovered about 50 small spheres made of iron, magnesium, and titanium, each about 0.3 mm in size. Loeb and his colleagues suggest that these spherules could be evidence of an emergency landing of an alien spacecraft on Earth. However, many scientists are skeptical of his hypothesis, claiming that similar fragments with such a composition could be the result of natural processes that occur when a meteorite enters the atmosphere and falls to the ocean floor. The US and Russia suddenly remembered nuclear tests. In recent years, the world has reassured itself that the era of nuclear testing was over. But the situation has changed dramatically. The US has officially announced its readiness to conduct a rapid subcritical experiment in Nevada, and Russia has almost simultaneously stated that it may resume tests on Novaya Zemlya for the first time in decades. Formally, these are studies on the safety of warheads and the modernization of the arsenal, but experts have noticed that preparations are proceeding unusually quickly and are carefully concealed under technical reports. Something else has come to light. Satellite images have shown activity in areas that they usually don't touch without serious reasons. In the US, several underground tunnels have been cleared, and in Russia, they have started modernizing old observation posts where they used to monitor air shock waves. There are no direct explanations for this, no conflict, no arms race at a level that would require real tests. A theory has emerged that governments are preparing for a system capable of operating in space, from intercepting objects to testing the resilience of satellites against extreme electromagnetic bursts. And although this is officially called technical measures, the simultaneous activity of two nuclear powers has made many people wonder if the reason might be external rather than political. The military likes to speak vaguely, but even they rarely synchronize without a serious reason. For the average person, all of this looks alarming. The two largest countries are suddenly acting as if something is happening outside the atmosphere that is better to check in advance. There are no official explanations, but the fact that nuclear test sites, which have been inactive for decades, are coming back to life already raises questions on its own. The more we look, the fewer coincidences remain. Maybe the answers have been right here all along. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Goodbye, everyone.